And joining me right now is Georgia Senator, member of the Budget, Banking, Armed Services, and Agricultural Committees, David Perdue. Senator, it's good to have you. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning, Maria.
What are you expecting from a Senate trial on impeachment, and how does Nancy Pelosi's latest move in terms of saying she may bypass the Senate, she may sit on the articles until she has better clarity on what a trial would look like? How's that impacting things?
Well, what we've been asking for all along, Maria, is due process to give this president his day in court. They've denied him access to the accusers. They've denied his attorney. Most people in America know this is not fair, and they want him to have his day in court. That's what we want in the Senate. We want him to be able to finally present his case to the American people.
So what do you think Pelosi's been waiting on in terms of sitting on these articles before she passes them on to the Senate?
Well, they know this is a weak case. They know that once we see all the evidence in the Senate, we're going to adjudicate this very readily. The problem is, I think this is a negotiating ploy between she and Schumer to change the rules that Schumer and McConnell are negotiating right now.
That's pretty extraordinary.
It's totally unprecedented. Look, in the first 180 years of our republic, we only had one of these processes. Today, in the last 45 years, we've had three. This is a very dangerous precedent we're setting. And if she doesn't send the articles, it shows the American people they don't have any confidence in their, quote, case.
So, Senator, we saw it's good to see you, by the way.
Good morning.
We saw essentially a totally partisan vote in the House.
Yeah.
In the Senate, by the way, did you see the Wall Street Journal editorial, The Impeachment Folly?
Yes,
so this is not getting good press. Do you expect any Republican defections? I heard Mitt Romney may be a problem. And what about the Democrats? Do you think any of your Senate colleagues on the Democratic side of the aisle are going to split from this Democratic orthodoxy?
I'm from outside this process. You know, you look at it, you can't predict the behavior of some of these colleagues. They're looking at their own self-interest instead of the best interest of the country. Look, what we want to do in the Senate is to stand above the nonsense we've seen for the last 84 days in the U.S. House of Representatives. This is unprecedented. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
We want to give this president his day in court. And if that means calling witnesses or whatever, I'm all for that. Whatever the president's attorney wants to present his case, I think we should do.
Might that include Hunter Biden?
Whatever it includes. I want this president to have an opportunity to do what we allow every person who's accused in America. That's one of the foundation building blocks of our democratic republic.
Well, who do you need to hear from? I mean, who do you need to hear from?
Well, anybody that the president attorney thinks is relevant at this point. But frankly, the sooner we get to a vote in the Senate, we know the outcome. There's no way we're going to get to 67 votes with the evidence we've seen so far from the House.
How long can she sit on the articles of impeachment before handing it over to the
Indefinitely.
Senate? Indefinitely.
Yeah, this is
so in other
unprecedented.
words, we could just go throughout 2020, going into an election year with just an impeachment from the House and no movement in the Senate.
In Bill Clinton's, they sent it over that afternoon.
Yeah.
And so this is unprecedented. It's totally political. It shows how partisan this is and how ridiculous the process is.
Well, she did make the point of bringing USMCA to the floor, right? Is that happening today? The House expected to vote on that trade deal later today?
It's about time, isn't it?
Yeah.
And frankly, you know, I mean, we've wasted 84 days here. There are 180,000 jobs, $68 billion of economic value coming at us through this deal. This is a great deal. It's unbelievable how good a deal this is for America.
Yeah. Well, in terms of the biggest impact, is it the 200,000 jobs? What kind of an impact on economic growth?
Well,
I know the farmers.
I'll tell you the biggest impact it has, the impact that it has on China.
Yeah.
We have a South Korea trade deal. We have a Japan trade deal. This USMCA shows China that the rest of the world is coming to this reasonable approach that we've taken toward trade.
Yeah, I want to bring Dagan in a second, but earlier this morning, China unveiled a list of new tariff exemptions, and it was for 6 chemical and oil products from the United States. Do you look for a phase 2 deal? Is this something from China that's basically giving an olive branch on the heels of, or expected to sign that phase 1? That's not signed yet, right?
Absolutely, but it's being translated right now. We're through the formalities, and so I was over there over Labor Day. We talked about this has been a huge breakthrough. What we've seen now is move from a grand deal to a sequence deal of incremental steps. And this first step has turned into a big step. There are 3 tranches of tariffs that we're going to adjust. And for that, we get increased ag accessibility into China from $9 billion to over $40 to $50 billion, plus some IP protection that we did not have before.
Yeah. Dagan.
Senator, I want to get back to impeachment and the trial in the Senate. Is it likely, what is the likelihood that no witnesses get called? Because potentially, based on what Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer agreed to, that any witnesses would have to be put to a vote. It wouldn't require a 2/3 vote, but a simple majority on witnesses. And there's a lot of thinking that none of these witnesses would get that simple majority if it goes to a vote, and therefore there wouldn't be any.
Well, what we've heard so far, our plan would be, and what the president would like, would be that the House manager and the president's attorney would present their cases, and then we would, each senator would then have a board. This is going to be very interesting for the American public. For 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, the American Senate members cannot speak. That should be a revelation to people back home. But they get to write one question, and then we'll potentially go straight to a vote to acquit.
Is it possible, though? I was thinking of the Merrick Garland case where Senator Mitch McConnell sat on Merrick Garland and didn't put President Obama's Supreme Court nominee up for a vote. Maybe Nancy Pelosi is pulling the same thing.
Well, she could be doing that. That's an entirely different situation. We were in the middle of a presidential campaign. Next year we'll be in the same thing. But this is about what the House started 84 days ago. It's a totally unreasonable accusation that they have not made the case of. Even we had Jonathan Turley, the constitutional expert, call out that they have not made their case. And so even on these 2 weak articles of impeachment, they've not made the case. So it's time to get this before the Senate. Let's get this voted on, get this man acquitted, and let's move on to the people's business up here.
So what is going to be the impact on the president's policies? I asked Congressman Kevin Brady this earlier. You know, Dagan held up the New York Post earlier because it says swamp mistress Pelosi dresses in black for historic vote. They write, it's your funeral. What's your take in terms of how the voters react to this come 2020?
Well,
and what about the president's agenda?
Well, the president's agenda is not going to change. I mean, we've got to get USMCA done. We've got to get funding voted on today, hopefully. We've got to get this infrastructure work done. And the president wants to roll out his immigration plan for America. I think you're going to see that next year. And then further developments on trade. So his agenda is not really going to change because of this.
What about 2020? Is this going to have an impact on the election?
Well, personally, I'm running around the country. I can't quantify this, but I can tell you the American people are upset about 2 things. One, they think the process has been unfair. And then secondly, they're looking at these articles of impeachment and they're telling me, is this all there is, really? After all this time, 2 years of Mueller, 84 days of this investigation, and this is all we get.
And there's also no acknowledgement from your colleagues on the left in terms of the wrongdoing happening from the cabal of people at the top of the FBI and CIA.
Well,
are we going to ever see accountability there, Senator?
Well, you know, that'll depend on what these committees do in the Senate. I mean, I'm hearing that we may have some committee hearings into testimony under oath that was made to the Senate that we think now was erroneous.
Yeah.
We saw the IG report. This leads to several questions. So I hope we do that.
And real quick on the budget, you had a major spending vote yesterday. What are you going to do about the debt and deficits, sir?
Well, we're growing the economy right now. It's one of 5 things we have to do. We have to fix this budget process. It's only funded the government on time 4 times in 45 years. We have to get rid of redundant agencies, and we've really got to save Social Security and Medicare. This is the problem. The 800-pound gorilla in the room is we've got to save Social Security and Medicare. And then lastly, health care costs. Those are the drivers that are causing this debt.
What do you want to see in terms of the agencies? Do you want to see a move to cut the number of people in the State Department, cut the number of people in some of the other? Tell me what you'd like to see in terms of really where some low-hanging fruit spending cuts could be. I recognize the growth is in the entitlements. You're
going to give me the next hour to do this. So, you know, we're spending less money. We're spending less money in discretionary spending as a percentage of the economy than we did in 2011. This is all about mandatory spending.
But don't you want to downsize agencies? You just
of course, we took 8,500 out of the VA because we gave them the right to fire people for not doing their job. We need to do that in the other agencies as well.
Like which ones? Where's the fat?
Oh, it's in every department. I mean, my God, we got an agriculture building over here that has 7 miles of hallway up here. I mean, this is a mammoth bureaucracy that we have in Washington, D.C.
Senator, it's great to get your insight.
It's good to see you, Marie.
Thank you so much. Senator David Perdue joining us there. Quick break.